Hello and welcome back to Real Talk, the podcast by Realme. My name is Mark.
Hey guys, I'm Rose.
Hey, I'm JJ.
And Rose, what are we going to talk about today?
We're going to talk about sustainability today. So we can start with the topic global warming. So basically, the Earth's temperature has risen 0.08 degrees per decade since 1880. And according to the temperature data report, 2020 has been the second warmest year on the record. And believe it or not, the 10 warmest year have occurred since 2002.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because majority of the people probably think those are just data, like numbers, and we don't really relate this to our life. But I still remember, like, when I used to live in Fiji, I met this couple. They come to visit almost every single year. So they do a lot of scuba diving and snorkeling, and hearing their story about the underwater world has been changed a lot. Sometimes it really feel like heartbreaking to hear this, because for such beautiful place, if the marine life has been damaged because of global warming, would be kind of a disaster actually.
Yeah.
So how about you guys? When do you actually start to pay more attention on this topic?
For me, kind of funny enough, like it started when I was watching like a mini docu-series called Our Planet on Netflix.
Okay.
I had no intention of learning about global warming or any of the environmental factors that were going on. I just thought like, oh, I used to really love like National Geographic and watching those types of shows on television when I was younger. And I just kind of found myself captivated by just the different like habitats and wildlife and the different life patterns and cyclical patterns of the weather that these different animals depend on, and just seeing how those things are changing so drastically, and all of the animals that their lives may be affected, they may go extinct, or like endangered species and things like that may be completely gone because of climate change. And so I think it really did a good job of, first of all, allowing you to appreciate nature and the environment. And then secondly, showing you after that, like what might happen if nothing changes, like if things keep going on the trajectory that it's on. So it kind of just started from there. Cause like, I mean, I heard all sorts of different things before that, and never really took the time to actually research or study or anything like that.
So as for me, because I was born and grew up, and raised in Singapore, we were being taught at a very young age that most of our lands are, landfill. So we learn a lot, not a lot, but we put a lot of emphasis on sea rise level. So this is where we learned a lot about why this happened and what causes it. Also, obviously, climate change is one of the causes. So so at least for me, it just, I would say, came naturally, but we learned it at a very young age.
I see.
Yeah, and then obviously, I think the second thing, I think is a very recent past. So 2000, I believe is, I think a decade ago, the tsunami.
Oh yeah.
The Japan tsunami. So I think that also is another trigger that telling us, the force of Mother Nature is to be reckoned with.
Yeah, exactly.
if we don't actually take care of the ecosystem that we have, and it might just go, like the Mother Nature will do what it needs to do to repair itself.
Yeah. It's like we could be kind of going along on our normal lives, taking things kind of for granted, just thinking like, oh, like everything's going to be normal. And then natural disasters hit that just kind of like remind us there are things that are outside of our control.
Yeah, actually, I think we might also understand that every little step that we do actually could affect and have a greater change as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of wanted to focus on where a lot of the problems are coming from or originating from, because I wanted to do a little bit of research on that, and like also as a a product company like realme, we're part of this supply chain and things like that. And one of the things that I read, according to many surveys and reports, is that 80% of the environmental impact that happens in terms of carbon emissions and things like that is coming from supply chain operations. And like 90% of the like negative impact towards like land, air, water, all of those things is also from the supply chain. And so when we look at what has the the biggest harm to the environment, also has the greatest I would say potential to improve and kind of maybe hopefully stabilize is the supply chain. And I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on kind of where you think the supply chain has opportunities for improvement, and maybe like where you think some of the harm is coming from.
Well, I think that's a huge topic. So I think I'm just gonna pick one of the many things.
Okay.
So I think material might be one thing that we can actually look into it. So I think the truth is the choice of material that we use on our product actually has an effect on the environment in general.
Mm-hmm.
So whether are we using aluminum or we are using polymer, actually has different kind of impact on the environment and also the afterlife of the product. Like, is it recyclable?
Mm-hmm.
And what's the cost of recycling it? Right. So yeah, I would say the choice of material might be one of the many things that as a company or as a brand, we should take that into account.
Exactly. That kind of gets into the topic of like reverse supply chain, like the ability to reuse, recycle, all of those types of things. And so, like you said, the choice of the material that we use can help create opportunities for reverse supply chain. What about you?
I think for me personally, I think packaging could be a part to take a deep look at into, because as we've all started to realize that there are more and more sustainable even fashion brands nowadays, and it's getting trendy as well. And I started to notice even for some like local brands, they started to do a small thing on their packaging. They were going to replace the plastic bags when they start to wrap their products. Instead, they were using recycled kind of fabric to make it like a bag. So basically, they just put your item in the tiny bags or different size of bags, and you could actually use it even when you're traveling. So basically, it's like multiple times you could actually use after you purchase the product. I think for that, it's also pretty green and also smart. Yeah,
I think so too. Yeah, for me, the areas that I saw for the maybe not the biggest improvement, but some very obvious opportunities for improvement. Number one is logistics, like the ability to optimize your distribution routes and things like that. Like when you're shipping the goods from every step of the supply chain all the way to the consumer, making sure that you're kind of optimizing which things get packaged together, so you're minimizing your footprint and the different paths that it takes to get those things delivered. And then the other one is just supply chain, I would say transparency, the ability to make sure that every partner that you have that's part of the supply chain is kind of working towards the same sustainable goals that you are. And so I think that there's different ways of achieving that, but I think we can talk more about that when we get into the solutions that we talk about to like global warming and the supply chain impact. But basically just the idea that you can increase transparency in order to put more pressure on companies to be more conscientious. There was a report that I read that talked about as of like 2019, like over 56% of companies, like small to medium size enterprises, they all agreed that like climate change and global warming were a significant issue that they wanted to tackle. But over a 4-year period, those same companies had increased their or integrated like sustainability efforts by less than 1%. So it was like the desire did not translate to action. And so I think that there's some opportunity, if there was transparency, to say, like, if you're going to be found out, maybe you'll have a greater urgency to your changes and your integration. So JJ, I wanted to ask you, maybe what are some things that are potential solutions?
Solution, I think there are many solutions to this problem.
Yeah.
I just thought Rose had just mentioned something very interesting, that is packaging, and I think this is something that I think can be a open floor discussion with the fans. Like, because as a company and as a brand, we do spend a lot of our efforts and resources into designing a packaging box. Like, I'm not sure, like, are you guys open to just having a packaging with just like pure brown cardboard with just like, for example, like just the word GT2 Pro? Because that firstly, obviously, that means we cardboard is 100% recyclable, and we actually not using as much of ink or other sort of resources to actually print certain wording on the packaging box. And obviously, by doing that, we can reduce the overall use of unwanted materials.
Yeah. So
in turns, that actually is making it more recyclable and more sustainable in the long run. So I'm not sure, but I think it would be very interesting to hear from our fans, to hear what do they think, and will they affect their view on our products, or is it gonna be it positive or negative? I think that can give us a good insight on that could be a potential solution.
Exactly. I think that you make a good point too, of like wanting to listen to consumers, because consumers are also adjusting their spending habits based on sustainable habits of companies. And I think that also is like a major area for potential improvement, is the pressure that the consumer can put on the company to adjust their practices.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to hear from you guys.
Exactly.
What you guys think about future packaging, or like how do we make this in a more sustainable manner?
Exactly.
Yeah, as we were talking about like customers, but also I want to start from another angle, because we're all talking about people here. That's why I think the mindset is also very important. As you mentioned, the transparency just now. So I think a lot of people, either they don't really take going sustainable or sustainability very seriously. They might just think it's okay to have or nice to have. But I think if more people are starting to think that it's better to have, or we should have, or must have it, I think we could actually make a really big changes in this, even in our industry as well.
Yeah. I think it's super hard when the issue feels far away. I think, like, going back to my example of when things became real to me, was watching a Netflix show, because like being from California, we kind of go through weather changes and droughts and things where there's lots of rain to no rain. So everything just felt kind of cyclical, but I felt like my life was kind of moving along fairly normally, even in the midst of all of those like year to year changes. But I wasn't aware or didn't understand the implications of what happens when polar ice caps are melting, right? Like, because California is not near the polar ice caps. And like, I don't really know on a day-to-day basis the changes that are happening in sea level and things like that, like you were talking about. So I think one of the challenges for consumers and companies alike is just, if the issue feels far away, it's hard to change your habits or like, yeah, I mean, your spending habits, your actions, your daily habits, any of those things are difficult to change when things feel far away.
I'm just happy that we started to step in this topic and try to educate more people, especially our fans. And yeah.
Exactly. And I think like, I'm not the only one probably, but like I had to do a bit of research for this, before our discussion today. I definitely don't know everything. I would not consider myself at all an authoritative voice on sustainability or anything like that. These are things that I would consider myself a student.
Same for me, I think.
Yeah, same here. So I think when Mark was talking about, we don't really feel the issues until that is real. I think this is very prominent maybe in, say, Indonesia, because recently, Indonesia actually moved their capital to a new place. One of the main reasons is because of rising sea level.
Wow.
So I think that's something that's very real, because as a Southeast Asian myself, sitting right in the middle of Singapore, this is of course a very real issues. I mean, looking at what's happening in Indonesia, one day it might happen to us. So yeah, I think it's a good thing that at Realme we actually take a step forward by incorporating some of the sustainability thinking into our product design.
Yeah. I think it was a lot of fun actually before the GT2 Pro launched, kind of like being along for the ride of like learning that it's going to be paper design, understanding what kind of materials we're going to be using, understanding the differences and changes we're going to be making to packaging, like all of those things. While we're learning about it, I mean, working here at headquarters, it's exciting to know that the company is doing some things to make a difference and try to tackle some of those supply chain issues that we're talking about today.
Exactly.
Yeah. So anything else we want to talk about on the topic?
No.
We're good?
We're good.
All right. Then maybe, Rose, you can introduce the next portion of our podcast.
So the next part will be the most fun part that we have every single week. It's called Realdle. Are you guys ready to take a guess of this week's word?
I think I'm ready. My phone is booted up. I think it's funny to try to transition from what we just talked about to this game.
Yeah, all right. So both of you need to start with the word realme.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So I'm seeing
LME.
LME. E is green.
Lame.
And then okay. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure.
Is it going okay?
I have a guess, but it's definitely wrong.
Yeah,
Just give it a try.
Something that's definitely wrong because I just want to.
Okay. I'm going to go with module. MODULE.
Let's take a look.
Oh, it's pretty good. The MO is green. The LE is green.
But
Oh, I know what the answer is. I totally know the answer now. I wonder, like, if this should be a race, like, between the two people. Like, if we could have, like, my board versus JJ's board. What do you think about that?
yeah, we're gonna try that.
All right. Then can I press enter?
Sure, go ahead.
All right. Mobile.
Yay!
Mobile.
Congrats.
I put more bits.
Mobids. All right. Awesome.
Cool.
Wordle is my life now. That's what I'm all about. Okay, that works. Okay.
That was fast.
Is it easier than you thought?
Yeah, like actually, like once I saw that the MO and the LE I was like, why didn't I guess mobile before module? For some reason, that was just like the one thing I was like, I feel like LE is kind of normal, and I wanted to begin with M.
Pretty good, guys.
Thank you. All right, so I guess we should close it out.
That's really fast.
It was super fast.
Yeah.
Realdle was done very quickly this time.
Like 2 minutes.
Yeah. All right. Next week, you're going to be the one who comes up with a word, and then Rose and I are going to have to race.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So that was it for our episode today. It was a lot of fun. Rose, where can people find us?
Also, basically, you guys can find us on all the audio platforms, including YouTube as well. Don't forget to subscribe us.
And like the stuff.
Yeah, that too.
And share if you can. All right. And JJ, how often do we do this?
Once a week.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see you guys again next week, and we'll also put our Twitter stuff, our social media handles in the description and maybe on the screen, so you guys can follow us. But yeah, thank you, and see you next week.
See you next week.
Guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.